Hi, and welcome to my channel, Laura's Library Card. It is the Love in the Night Readathon, which means paranormal romance. I am super excited because this is one of my favorite subgenres of romance. So, let me tell you about what books I am hoping to get to this week of the readathon. The first book I'm hoping to tackle is the group book, which is How to Date Your Dragon by Molly Harper. I have this book checked out as a ebook format because I don't pay for Audible, and I'm excited because it seems like it's going to be a contemporary setting, and the main female character sounds like kind of like a badass, and I think there's a dragon shifter, so I have heard nothing but good things about this book and I'm excited to dive in. The next book that I have planned for my TBR is Hot and Badgered by Shelly Laurenston. This is the first book in the Honey Badger Chronicles series. And so, as far as I can tell, this is also going to be contemporary and pretty fun with a grizzly bear shifter and a honey badger shifter. So I have also heard good things about this book, and it has good ratings on Goodreads, so I'm excited to dive in. And the third book that I have chosen for my official TBR is Dragon Actually by G.A. Aiken. I also don't know a ton about this. It sounds a little historical-y-ish just in its setting, but a awesome female warrior and a dragon shifter, and maybe a little bit of like mistaken mystery identity situation happening here. So it's definitely shifter heavy for me for this readathon, but that was what I was really feeling. And I also wanted to have some lighthearted paranormal romances here. I was not feeling the angst and serious drama tension that comes from some of the more serious and heavy paranormal romance. So I was hoping for something a little bit more lighthearted. Altogether, these three books is just about 1,000 pages. So that seems like pretty reasonable for me to accomplish this week. If I do manage to finish all three of those, which would be very great. I do have one more book on reserve that I could dive into, which is Midnight with the Devil by Emma Castle, which is also the first book in a series, it looks like. I don't know a ton about this one other than it looks like from the blurb, the main female character makes a deal with the devil, and it turns out that that is like actually the devil, Lucifer Morningstar himself. So, demons, devils, angels, paranormal romance. I don't think I've really read that much about angels or devils before, so this one sounded really fun and exciting. But we shall see if I manage to get through all four of these. And yeah, I'm just starting out my vlog and wanted to let you know what you can expect this week. Okay, hi, I am tuning in because I am at 50% progress of How to Date Your Dragon. This is the group book, so I decided to start there, and I'm reading the ebook, and so far I'm enjoying it. The premise is that our main female character is named Jillian, and she works for a company that knows that there are mythological supernatural creatures in the world, and is trying to promote like interspecies cooperation, and so she has been sent to this town, Mystic Bayou, for like an anthropological study and to interview people there and try to find out a little bit more about how all of these supernatural creatures and humans have all been getting along as a community, when the world at large does not know or acknowledge that these creatures exist. So there she runs into the love interest, who is the sheriff, who is a dragon shifter, but Jillian doesn't realize that he's a dragon shifter yet. The book is not that long, so it has not taken too long for me to get to the 50% mark. And while I am really enjoying the writing style and the richness of content that has been here, I definitely can see how this is the start of a series, because there's so much fodder here for other stories and other creatures to be talked about, because there's just such a variety already included. The like small town southern setting is really great. I love that there's some sort of Cajun turns of phrases that have been sprinkled in throughout. I really am enjoying the setting of the book, and I am enjoying the plot as well. I don't know if the blurb actually says this, but here at this part of the book, a mystery is sort of coming to light, and so I'm kind of liking that. My biggest frustration of this is that I really, so far, I'm at 50%, and the love interests like have not really interacted too much. The few interactions they have, they both are feeling kind of drawn to the other person, but they both are constantly like sort of sniping at each other, and there just doesn't really seem to be a lot of connection building here or emotional development building here. I know I'm only at 50%, so there's plenty of time for that to grow and develop, but my concern is that it's just not going to be super believable for me. Like, I want more here, and I just don't feel like, I feel like the main female character has interacted more with the mayor than she has with our love interest, the sheriff. So I am enjoying it. I think that it is lighthearted and fun and kind of funny, and I am intrigued by the sort of mystery element that has been brought up, but I also am hoping that the romance elements can be pulled off to my satisfaction. So I will tune back in later, slash maybe at the end, with my final thoughts. Hi. Okay, so I have finished the group book, How to Date Your Dragon, and I liked it. I liked it overall. It was definitely fun and lighthearted. There is excellent banter between a lot of our characters, but especially our main couple. There's definitely a strong sense of the supporting characters, the other supporting cast is great. It was super fun to read a bunch of friends and the connections that Jillian was making while she was in town. I will say, right after my last update, like around the 50% mark, the book takes, in my opinion, sort of a sharp left turn regarding the romance elements, because like suddenly they're like together, or suddenly things start to progress, and basically the next time we get the hero's love interest's point of view, Bale, he basically is like, well, I've known I've loved her like the whole time, and I was just kind of like, well, okay then, if you say so. So overall, I really liked this book. I thought it was super fun. I thought it was really funny. I thought that the whole setting was a good time. The mystery element was present, but I did not find that it was mysterious at all. I knew I had a very strong guess who the bad guy was, and I was correct. So it was perfectly cute. It was perfectly fun. I would definitely continue to read more in this series. It looks like there are 5 or 6 books already out in this series, and I would definitely consider reading continuing in the series, because it was just so fun and I really liked the banter. I will just say that for me overall, this wasn't a super strong romance, because I just didn't feel like the emotional development was there. It really just felt kind of like insta connection. It looks like the Kindle edition says that it is 232 pages, and I think that I would have really appreciated another 50 plus pages more of having our two characters connect, because I just didn't, it felt a little insta-lovey to me. So so I really like the group book. I can't wait to discuss it during our live show and with my friends. So yeah, I would definitely consider reading more books in this series. Next on my list, I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to get to next. I think that I might dive into Hot and Badgered next. I don't know. I will keep you posted when I have more to say. Hi, okay, so I am updating you because I think about 30% or so into Hot and Badgered by Shelly Laurenston, which is the second book that I am going to be reading for the Love of the Night Readathon. I was hoping to wait until 50%, but I think I'm going to go to bed soon, so I wanted to tell you now. I'm liking this book. It's definitely fun. It's definitely really action-packed, very plot-heavy. There's a lot of forward momentum. It's definitely a page-turner. That being said, there's a lot of characters and a lot of throw you into the next scene kind of a situation. And I really feel like the romance hasn't done anything yet. I mean, I know it's only 30%, so there's still time, but also, I don't know, the main male character, the love interest, Berg, he has gone and asked Charlie out on a date, and she says, no, because I actually like you. I'm like, okay, why do you like him? You have had very little interaction at this point. And sure, I understand a basic spark, just sort of that chemistry kind of element. But like, I just feel like there's a lot of plot happening that is surrounding Charlie and her sisters and what's going on with their family. It feels, I don't know, almost for me, like it's like hard to, I don't want to say keep up with, but like it just feels like every scene is just like cheaper by the dozen. There's a lot of characters and there's a lot of action, and it's sort of like hard to navigate. It just is, there's a lot going on. So I am interested and I'm definitely going to keep going, but also it's just like almost manic feeling. Like there's just so much going on. And it's funny, but also it's just kind of like there's people freaking out in the background and the main characters are like, so we're having a serious conversation. But in the background, it's like, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I'm just like not super digging it. And I really want the romance element to ramp up, because so far I just wish there was more of that happening. So that's my 30% update on Hot and Badgered, and I will tune back in a little bit. Hi, okay, so I was just about to go to bed when I realized that I had not updated you today, and that is partly because I didn't really read anything for the Love of the Night Readathon today. So I did read bookish things, but they were not paranormal romance. So if you are only here for the paranormal romance, jump to this timestamp that I'm putting here on the screen. I did read a little bit today of a fantasy romance. This is A Heart of Blood and Ashes by Milla Vane. I had started reading this fantasy romance before the start of the Love and the Night Readathon and was at about 25%. I am now at about 38% because I've been really enjoying it. It's so good. I want to keep reading it. And I was reading that today instead of paranormal romance. So, I had heard about this from other people on BookTube, other romance tubers, and this is sort of a political intrigue fantasy setting with some romance in it. Basically, our main male characters' parents, who are like the king and queen, have recently been unalived under suspicious circumstances, and there is the main female character is like somebody who's really important politically that nobody actually really knew existed, the last of the line from this like legendary warrior queen descendant. And she was somehow involved with the incident that led to his parents' deaths. And so he definitely doesn't trust her. He wants to get vengeance upon her, but he also realizes that he can like make an alliance and like get vengeance against like her family that might have killed his family. So there's definitely a lot of like political intrigue stuff going on, which at first was kind of hard for me to dive into. It's just there's a lot of like different kingdoms and a lot of like names thrown around, but basically they're traveling from point A to point B, and it's yes, we're going to have to be together and there will eventually be a marriage between us, but like we don't really like each other, even though like they're also super attracted to each other. So I am enjoying it. It's definitely adult. There's violence on page as well as spicy times. So this is one that I just wanted to dive back into and was reading a bit during my lunch break. And so I would love to put this down to work on paranormal romance, but also it's so good. The other book that I started today, I started the audiobook of Small Pleasures. This is by Clare somebody. I'll put it here on the screen. This is a book that was chosen for one of my book club books, and I did not pick this book. I don't really know that much about it. It's, as far as I can tell, a literary fiction book. I'm about 20% of the way into the audiobook, and the premise is pretty much in the blurb, which is the main character is a woman who's like 39, never married, no kids, lives at home with her mother, whom she kind of takes care of and also kind of hates a little bit. And she is a journalist who this is also taking place maybe mid to late 50s, and in Britain, London area. And so she is like assigned this case to go investigate where a woman claims that her daughter was virgin birth, essentially. And so this woman, who's the main character, starts to kind of get involved with investigating this case. The woman who claims that it was an immaculate conception, and also the family. So I'm not that far into it. It's not uninteresting, but it's also not super gripping. So I'm glad that I'm able to kind of just plow right through the book. So I don't know how I'm going to feel about that, but that is a book club book. Speaking of book clubs, the last thing I was going to talk about today was the book club that I went to this evening, which is a really cool group of ladies. And we read for the month of July Where the Crawdads Sing, and we are going to try to figure out a time for us all together to go see the movie together. This is a literary fiction book that it was totally fine. I remember when it blew up a couple years ago when it was first published or first really popular, and I did not read it at that time, and I'm not really sure what to say about it. It's a story of prejudice and how this town views this local young woman. She starts off as a girl. She starts off the book as she's 6 or 7 years old, and she and her family live in the marsh, and so they're just considered trash. Everyone in the town kind of looks down on her, and she ends up having to survive in this marsh for years alone because her family basically just leaves her behind when she's very young. And then also being told at the same time there is a sort of other timeline in 1969 where this girl was born in 52 or something. So one of the timelines is her growing up, and the other timeline is in 1969. We know that there has been a suspicious death that is very quickly suspected of foul play and or murder, and we know that basically eventually you kind of know that they are leading toward this main female character being the prime suspect in this mysterious crime. So it's a lot about her life, and then kind of 60% of the way through, the timelines finally merge, and she has been, no surprise here, I don't feel like this is a spoiler at all, she's been arrested for the death of this guy. And so then it kind of turns into a legal procedural. So yeah, I thought it was perfectly fine. I felt there was a lot of comments on reviews that were talking about how the dialect was a problem, which I listened to the audiobook, so I heard some of that from the narration, but I didn't have to read it, thankfully, because I saw a couple quotes and I was like, ooh, yikes, I didn't have any interest in reading that typed out. And for me, while it was very atmospheric and all the nature elements were done really well, and there was a lot of sort of poetic writing surrounding the nature elements, I didn't really feel like the novel elements were super strong. There was a lot of sort of middle of the road kind of reviews also at book clubs. So for me, I didn't really understand why this book had such a following or such a popular opinion at the time it came out, because I just didn't really feel like it was that great. So but it was good because I got to hang out with my cool friends at book club, and we had a great time, and we might go and see the movie together. So I got a lot of bookish stuff done today, but very little of it was anything to do with Love in the Night. I am still essentially have made zero progress from my last update on Hot and Badgered, and I do have Dragon actually on audiobook, so I might try to read a little bit of that, alternate between Dragon actually and Small Pleasures. But yeah, I will tune in tomorrow with a new update. Okay, so time for another update. I am 53% of the way into Hot and Badgered, and I'm gonna DNF it. I'm just not having a good time. I find this book really chaotic. The plot is so complicated and convoluted, I just can't even describe to you what's happening. Basically, the three sisters are just constantly on the run. It's sort of a little unclear from whom. It's sort of unclear who is wanting to get a hold of them. It's unclear why some people are on their side and some people aren't. There's so many characters that just drift in, are there for a scene or two, and then are gone. And it's should I try to remember that person? What does this person have to do with any of our main characters? It doesn't really feel like Charlie is the main character to me. I mean, I guess she gets like the most perspectives, but like to me there's been almost no romance at all, other than Charlie and Berg are both like, wow, the person's pretty attractive. So it's just utter chaos. It's literally just like fighting and chaos and running. And I just don't care. Like, I just don't really care about the characters. I feel like there's no romance developing. It's definitely paranormal because there are a lot of shifters. I think that there's potential for this world to be really cool, but like, I just don't care about Charlie or her sisters, and I can't keep up with all the other characters and what the heck is going on. So, yeah, I have decided to DNF Hot and Badgered. I even tried to switch to the audiobook for a little bit, and I felt like there was punctuation. I was reading the audiobook and the ebook at the same time, and felt like there was multiple times where there was punctuation in the ebook where someone was, there was a dot dot dot, or there was an exclamation point, and the narrator like didn't bother to include any of that in their intonation. So I didn't feel like the narration was really top notch. I just was kind of like underwhelmed with the audiobook, and that did not help the experience. So yeah, I have decided to DNF Hot and Badgered. Maybe someday I'll pick it back up, but for now I'm just not really that interested because it's just too convoluted and chaotic. So I do have Dragon, actually, both the ebook and the audiobook, so I think I might try to dive into that. I guess that does move forward my potential, alternate choice that I was hoping to get to, which I will put here because I don't remember what it was called. Something about like a deal with the devil or something like that. So I will keep you posted with my next update. Hi. Okay, so I am 20% of the way into Dragon, actually. I am listening to the audiobook and following along with the ebook at the same time. And it's good. I'm really liking it. I'm liking the tone, and there's definitely a lot of good tension. The narration is done by the same voice actor who does Ice Planet Barbarians, the Holly Jackson, I think is her name. So that was a nice treat because I know and like that narration already. The premise of this book is that the main female character, Arwen, is mortally wounded at the very start of the book. Like, there's literally a beheading on page 1 or 2. And she is super brave in this fight, but she has been really wounded. And she is near a dragon in a cave, and he witnesses her bravery and is kind of moved by it. He helps clear out the men that she's been fighting, partly because they're just like too close to his lair. And on a whim, he decides to rescue and heal this woman. Even though he's not like, he doesn't really care for humans. And so she does not know that he has a human form. People just don't know that about dragons. So by night, she is interacting with him in his dragon form. And because it is Anwen's goal in life to defeat, and she's currently leading a revolution against her brother, who's like on the throne but is like a bad guy, I guess. She wants to defeat her brother, and she knows that even though she's a really great warrior, he has the skills to beat her. So the dragon is like, I know somebody who can train you to eventually be able to overcome your brother. And so by day, he himself, the dragon, comes to her in his human form and is this like knight who is training her to fight better. And she is super sexually attracted to this knight, but also doesn't really like him. He's kind of arrogant, and she doesn't like that he can best her in the fight. But she does not know that the dragon, who she is super chatty with and really friendly with and platonically like cuddly with, is the same guy who is the warrior. And also she's really disconcerted with the fact that she's attracted to this warrior guy. So there's like, I don't want to say mistaken, it's not mistaken identity, but it's like a hidden identity kind of a situation where Fergus is not telling her that it's him. But I'm liking it because it is the same person. And there's a lot of sexual tension from both of them. They're both super attracted and lustily enjoying the sights and company of the other person. So I am really enjoying the overall tone and vibes is exactly what I'm looking for. I am interested to see where this is going to go. And yeah, so I'm only 20% of the way in, but it definitely feels like this is the direction I want to be heading in after my DNF. So I will probably tune in again tomorrow. Okay, hi, I'm tuning in for a hopefully short update. I am 35% of the way into Dragon Actually, and it's definitely gotten more like layered and convoluted than what I first realized. It has a little bit, in my personal opinion, turned into a sort of insta-love story. I mean, I believe that the connection is there, and I even believe that they both have things that they really admire about the other person, dragon person, whatever, but also, I feel like a lot of the emotional development has not really been on page. And there's definitely been lusty scenes, spicy scenes. And of course, like, he treated her really well because she was a virgin. And of course, she came like 4 times or whatever the very first time, and whatever. It's fine. That part, the whole spicy element to things is fine. What has been added in is that like the dragon's brother has come and he's looking for information or something from Fergus, and or like there's something definitely going on in the dragon society that's like not really been fully explained or clear yet, and I think that is going to be pretty relevant going forward. And there's also this whole element of Lorcan, the like evil brother guy, like he is using the like help of a like sorcerer, and like so there's a whole plotline going on with that. It's suddenly getting more complicated too. There's like this like little sort of side romance possibly maybe blooming, like these like longing looks or embarrassed like kind of looking between Morphid and someone else. Like there's all these extra layers and stuff, and so I am interested in to see where those are all going to go, because for a minute there I was like, they're like together and they're both in love, like they really just need to have their resolution of who's who and then it'll be good. And I thought, we're only 30% of the way through this book. What's going on? So I definitely think this book is not going to follow sort of a traditional like romance kind of plot line and structure. So I think I'm going to try to tune in at the end unless something really dramatic happens. Hi, it is Friday afternoon and I am home from work. Thank God. It's been a long week. My husband has heard hours of me ranting this week.
Sure have.
Yeah. So I'm very glad to be home. I have a little ice cream treat over there that I plan to enjoy. And unfortunately, my D&D session got canceled tonight, which I am truly bummed about because we are up to some scheming and, plotting and stuff is happening. But hey, when people get sick, they can't come. So we will pick that up next week. So boo, the D&D is canceled, but also yay, because this is now an unexpected evening that I get to read more paranormal romance. So, brief update on Dragon Actually. I have read a fair bit more or listened to a bunch of the audiobook at work, and the part that I am confused about is that it really feels in like the structure wise that I should be at like 95%. Like they're like tasks have been accomplished, goals have been achieved, like bad guys have been defeated, like love has been consummated and they're together. So it's just like, I don't understand why my audiobook says I have 4 more hours. Like, I don't understand why I am not almost done with this book. So maybe my audiobook is like messed up. Maybe there's like another novella or something that's also included in this that I didn't even, because it's a library checkout that I didn't even realize, but I'm not sure what's going on. So I will tune back in at the end, because either the end is nigh, because if there's like a novella or something, I'm probably not going to read it right now. So either you'll see me here in another few minutes, or I'll have a lot more to say about all the stuff that happens after this point. So that's... Hi, okay, so jumping back in to update you because I have finished Dragon Actually by G.A. Aiken. Actually, there was a novella at the end of the audiobook, which I had not realized, it makes so much more sense now, because throughout my progress, I kept thinking, wow, we seem further along in the story than, the 30% or whatever. And like I said before, was like, how can there be 4 more hours? And it's because there's a whole other thing. But not super interested in reading that right now. In fact, I'm going to go out to dinner with my husband. I mean, what is this? Ice cream and dinner out in the same night? I'm spoiled. And I'm super spoiled because Ben bought me these earrings. I don't know if you can tell. I'll try to insert a better picture of them. But yeah, so I just wanted to tune in and give my thoughts on Dragon, actually. Overall, I liked it. I thought it was cute. Hi, Kat. She's right here and she's literally chewing on the phone. Here's my kitty. And all my junk in the background. Okay, so anywho, Dragon actually was cute, was fun. We have our main female character who's this warrior. She's Anwil the Bloody, and she has, by the end of the book, landed herself a dragon as a mate. Cat, could you please? Who is Fergus the Destroyer. And yeah, so it was good. He ends up, claiming her, spoilers, surprise, they get together in the end. Don't know if spoiler. But yeah, it was cute. I liked the writing style. Somehow, I don't know how the author managed to do this because there's plenty of actual violence and fighting on page. There's plenty of, like I said, beheadings and there's war and there's battle and such. Multiple on-page deaths, but somehow there's still a overall light tone. I don't know how else to describe it. There's definitely banter between Anwil and Fergus, and their passion for each other definitely lends a lighter tone too, but I can't quite put my finger on that element. I'll try to think better and use smarter words. But yeah, overall I liked it. Thought it was fun. I do feel like there were relatively high stakes or threats, conflict introduced, and then it was kind of resolved pretty easily in my personal opinion. I thought there would just be a little bit more having to overcome that was not present, but anyway, still liked it. Not really sure how many stars I'd give it. It was enjoyable. Do I think it was perfect? No. It was an adequate amount of steaminess, I think. So yeah, and I do think that overall it's pretty much held up since the time of writing, which I think was 2001, 2004 or something like that. So yeah, so I'm gonna go out to dinner. I'm going to go get Indian food, and after I've had my naan, I will come back and I hope to dive into Witches Get Stitches by Juliette Cross. Yes, I know I'm changing plans from what I stated earlier, but this is a hold that I've been waiting on, and it just came in. And this is the third book in her Stay a Spell series, and I've read the first two and really enjoyed them, so I definitely want to return to that world. And Juliette Cross has just this really great writing style that I find really readable and spicy, but also friendly and fun. So yeah, I'm just, and both of her heroes that she wrote in book 1 and in book 2 were super swoony. So I'm really excited to dive into 3. So I will update you when I have read a good chunk of Witches Get Stitches. Hi, it is Friday night. It is not too terribly late, but I am terribly tired. I've just had a long week, a lot of stress at work, and I'm ready for bed. It's Friday night, and I'm just used up all my week's energy. So I just wanted to pop in real quick and tell you that I have read the first 20% of Witches Get Stitches, and I'm loving it. I love Juliette Cross's writing. I feel like she just has this really great way of sucking me in to the story, and instantly engaged with the characters, all the characters she's ever written ever. The main love interests for book 1 and for book 2 and now for book 3 they're just so engaging. It's so easy to be inside people's heads, I think that her writing for me is really descriptive. It's really evocative in an emotional sense. I don't tend to picture a lot, have a very strong mental picture when I'm reading, but I always am very emotionally engaged with Juliette Cross's writing style. So yeah, and I think that she writes tension, especially sexual tension, really, really well. So this is the third book in the Stay a Spell series, and it's already just such a treat, as were the first two. So I'm excited to be reading this. The plot is good too, because we have our characters who have already had, they like met, and then they like meet years, like a little bit later, and then like now they're business partners, and so it's a friends to lovers for sure. So I'm liking the setup, and the tension is just palpable on every page from both of them. So it is gonna be fun. And tomorrow is Saturday and the last day of the readathon, and I think that it's doable for me to finish this book. And Nico seems to be perceiving Violet as his fated mate, so I'm going to count that, and therefore I will have achieved all 5 of the Scavenger Hunt prompts, which will make me very happy. And I will have hopefully finished 3 books, and I had another one that I DNF'd. So that's the plan, and I will tune back in on Saturday. Okay, we are going to end the vlog, I think, where we started this vlog, right here in my desk. Yeah, so it is Saturday night. It is late, but I have finished my final book, the final book that I'm going to be reading for the end of the Love in the Night Readathon. So I did finish Witches Get Stitches by Juliette Cross today, actually like 8 minutes ago, not even. And I loved it. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head if this is a full 5 stars, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I said earlier in my first clip, from earlier today, I don't remember, that I really enjoy Juliette Cross's writing. I think that her writing style just really speaks to me, is something that I just really gel with, and really feel is very evocative. And so I find that it's easy for me to just keep turning pages and keep wanting to know what's going to be happening, because I think she just writes tension so well, and I love her characters and depth of characters, and all of her characters that I've read so far feel very intensely, and I really enjoy that. And then there's also an element of this world that she's created where there is the magic from all the different paranormal species, races, peoples, whatevers. So that's definitely interesting, and is just woven very casually and subtly throughout their lives, which makes total sense if you are a witch that has innate magical powers. So yes, this whole cast of characters is just a big, happy, warm family. The supporting characters are really fun, and there's a lot of just loyalty and care that just seeps out of the pages of this setting. So I think that Juliette Cross does a really great job writing that, and writing the tension, and writing little spicy scenes. I have loved all of the intimate scenes in all of the books. They're definitely hot. I like it. So yes, this was Nico's story as well as Violet's story. I don't think I give a premise, but you can go and read the blurb if you care about a premise, because I'm tired and I'm not going to give it to you now. So overall, I am very pleasantly pleased with how well I did throughout this readathon. I ended up finishing 3 books. I read the group book, How to Date Your Dragon, and quite enjoyed that. That was a really fun time. With that sinking in a smidgen more, I do have a slightly more, I wouldn't say complaints, but I do feel that I had a really fun time reading it, but I do have a little bit of critique as to the structure and construction of the whole thing, but would recommend. It was a fun story. I then DNF'd my second book that I was trying to read, which was Hot and Badgered. I felt that was just too chaotic, too many characters, wasn't for me. Not sure what was going on, maybe something else. I do think that in some ways Stay a Spell, the series, has quite a number of characters, but all the characters in Stay a Spell series seem to feel important and distinct enough to remember who's who, and also I felt like the characters had more purpose. There was almost no romance happening at the 50% mark of Hot and Badgered, so I was just like, you're not doing it for me. So I DNF'd Hot and Badgered. And then what was the third book? I definitely talked about it on here. Oh, it was Dragon Actually. Wow, it is late. Dragon Actually by G.A. Aiken. I listened to the audiobook for that, and it was also a good time. There was a sort of interesting balance of writing violence or action balanced with some romance. There was definitely some steamy scenes, sort of in a similar vein to the other for the first book, How to Date Your Dragon. I think that like I had a really good reading experience, but at the end, with a little bit of thinking, I have a couple small critiques to make, and I think that that probably will be the case. I mean, that's sort of always the case with me, is that I can always find something that I'm just like, I really liked all of it except for this little bit. And that probably will be true also of this last book, Witches Get Stitches. I just only finished it 5 minutes ago, so haven't quite determined what my critiques shall be. But I also had a really good time reading that one. I have loved coming back to Juliette Cross's Stay Spell series setting, and this is the third book of hers that I'm giving 4+ stars. So I think I will also, I mean, I will continue reading in this series. I think the fourth book in this series just came out over the summer, so I hope it's available through my library soon. And I also have interest in continuing reading some of her other books, because I just really, really, really have enjoyed everything I've read by Juliette Cross, so I want to read more. Overall, I did quite well on the Scavenger Hunt for the Love of the Night. In this last book, Stay Spell, Nico definitely considers Violet as his fated mate, so I'm counting it. And there are alpha males in pretty much every single one of these romances that I read. And what is it? Sort of like a monster. There's definitely some confusion as to, in the first book, the group book, the main female character doesn't realize sometimes who she's speaking to, like the what kind of shifter or what kind of magical being they are. So I felt like that counted. She didn't know that the main male character was a dragon shifter, so I'm counting that. And eat her out. I think there was pretty much one of those scenes in I think all the books that I read. Plenty of it in Witches Get Stitches. There was a lot of licking in Witches Get Stitches. I mean, just kind of everywhere and everything, and licking into her mouth. I was like, that's probably like the most frequently repeated phrase in this book. And then the shift, baby shift, they're like almost everyone, I think all the books that I read had shifters in them. So, yeah, so there was plenty of shifting, and I was happy to have met all the prompts for the Scavenger Hunt. So I consider Love of the Night a success. So altogether for this readathon, I ended up finishing 1,192 pages, if we count the number of pages I finished, including Hot and Badgered. So yeah, to me, that is a total success. I was very happy to read so much paranormal romance, and this readathon always lets me find really great books and great authors, and I'm so happy that I had a chance to participate. So thank you so much for following me along in this vlog, and let me know down below if you leave a comment for any of the books that you read, any paranormal romance you would recommend for me to read on a future round of Love of the Night. And yeah, let me know anything you have to say, and thanks again for watching. Bye!